What's up everyone, welcome back to Lex Alexas. Today it is my championship review for matchday 42. We're really getting to the tail end of this season. We've also got 12 midweek games that will be taking place tomorrow. So you guys need to predict these games as soon as you can, because it's going to be really crucial for the Prediction League. Because of the Prediction League, see the latest community post for the Prediction League, it's getting ever closer and it was a tough weekend. You know, not a lot of us actually got more than 5 points. I gotta say, FIFA actually did the best out of anyone, getting 4 correct scores and 14 points, which is mind-blowing really, to be honest. But today what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the 12 games that took place on the Friday, and we're just going to go through all of our predictions for the upcoming games and my latest thoughts on those games. But make sure you guys, you tell me your thoughts of those games in the comments down below as well. If you guys like what you see, please like the video, just tremendously help the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button, it really helps, and please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But without any further ado, let's start talking through what happened in Friday's games. So, what a way to start. We've got Luton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Kenilworth Road was absolutely rocking with this game. And this is a crucial win for Luton to bounce back the way they did when they lost 2-0 to Huddersfield. They also had things not go their way in that previous game, including the penalty miss as well. I've got to give Luton a lot of credit. They really responded in a big way, but they are now responsible for stopping Nottingham Forest's unbeaten run. And could that defeat come at literally the worst time for Nottingham Forest? It's going to be interesting to see how Nottingham Forest respond, because I do think Forest have got 2 tough games coming out. They've got Bournemouth and Fulham still to play. The only goal in the end actually came from a Cal Naismith penalty. That was a lot of controversy in that moment there, and throughout the game, I would say this is probably one of the most controversial games throughout this season for both teams. They've had things go against them. So for Nottingham Forest, they conceded a penalty where, if you look at it, I mean, from one angle, it looks like Jack Colback handles the ball. But then in the other angle, it looks even worse, and Luton player is literally bashing the ball away himself. So it depends what angle you look at. One angle, he really does look like Jack Colback handles the ball, but I think it's a really harsh decision. But you do see these penalty decisions unfortunately given, especially in the modern game. Unfortunately, there's nothing he can do about his arms, Jack Colback. You can't run with your hands behind your back. He's got to run forward and lean forward to try and get ahead of his man. But unfortunately, it ends up having a penalty for Luton Town. Naismith scores it. And I mean, other controversial moments. Forest had a goal disallowed. Jets Bent with a nice goal, but the flag was given for offside. Now, he was in an offside position when Brennan Johnston played the ball to him, but I believe it was Amari Bell who actually managed to have a touch, you know, before reaching Jed Spence. That means he actually was not offside and the goal should have stood. So poor officiating for Forest in those 2 moments there. But Luton got the sense of the bad officiating as well when Sonny Bradley was sent off. I do not agree with that red card whatsoever. I think it was a bit ridiculous, to be honest. So I think this game was very controversial. Really could have been a different result if it was officiated a little bit better. But Luton would take this win. What a weekend it is for them. When you think about it, you know, Bournemouth dropped points, Fulham dropped points, Huddersfield dropped points, Sheffield United dropped points, Middlesbrough dropped points, Blackburn dropped points. This was a really good weekend for Luton Town. As with Forest, it's not the end of the world. Since Bournemouth also dropped points, it's not exactly the end of the world. It could have been worse for Forest. What a game we had at St Andrews. It ended Birmingham 2, Coventry City 4. And I was thinking that this game was going to have that end of the season vibe. But I got to say, following all those listed teams I just listed in the previous game, with all those teams losing games, you know, these are all teams in the top 8 dropping points. And the fact that Coventry won this game, they now find themselves only 3 points away from the top 6. I remember, I think 2 game weeks ago, I did not give Coventry a chance to get back into the top 6. But now they're going to make up 3 points within 4 games. And that is very durable. And that really makes their midweek game against Bournemouth a very interesting game. If anything, a must-win game if they do want to see themselves fight for those top 6 places. Now, both teams defending, it was a little bit questionable. 5 of the 6 goals scored in that game came from set pieces. What was shocking is that Birmingham were 2-0 up and did very well to get 2-0 up. But then they actually went 2-0 up, I think, in the 39th minute. And then by the 46th minute, they equalised 2-2 just before half-time as well. Ben Sheff scoring a quick brace for those first 2 goals. And then for the other 2, I mean, it was only Callum O'Hara actually scored the goal that actually wasn't from a set piece. It was a brilliant performance in the end, and I think Coventry had that extra quality going forward, and I think that gave them the edge. I mean, less said about Birmingham the better. 20th place at the moment. I definitely think that they're okay. I know they're mathematically not safe, but it's going to take an absolute travesty, you know, if Birmingham somehow get pulled into the bottom 3. You know, a lot of things will have to go against them. With Coventry, they've actually reignited their chances of top 6, and I can't believe I'm saying that. The game between Bournemouth and Middlesbrough ended as a 0-0 draw. They both cancelled each other out by the looks of it in this game. If you look at the stats, I mean, we didn't really see too many shots. I mean, when you look at shots on target, Bournemouth had 2, Middlesbrough had 1, and yeah, there just wasn't really enough clear-cut chances, really, to be honest. Both goalkeepers were alert when they needed to be, but then I feel like the team that you would have seen actually probably looking a little bit more dangerous in their old positions were Bournemouth. But I actually have a feeling that maybe they wanted this point. Maybe they saw the Forest game and then they thought, okay, let's at least get a point here. But once again, you know, chances were few and far between. The closest to scoring, I think, was Lerma, who had the header that came off the crossbar. Apart from that, it was a pretty nothing game. I wouldn't say it was a boring game. You can clearly see both of these teams have quality, but in terms of chances, both teams, it was like a chess game. You know, you didn't really see a lot of movement with these 2 teams as well. They really struggled to stifle the other teams. So they definitely cancel each other out. It's an interesting couple of midweek games going up, as Bournemouth got to play Coventry, who seem to be a big threat now, and Middlesbrough have got to play against Huddersfield as well. So both these teams have got a very crucial midweek game coming up, and if anything, I think especially for Middlesbrough's sake, maybe they're thinking more about that game as well. So yeah, 0-0 draw. Let's hope we don't see too many of those this season, but it was a good game to watch, actually. So Hull finally end their home curse, beating Cardiff by 2-1, and what a way to do it, to actually wear their away kit at their home game as well. I mean, maybe there's something about that kit. I said it's the best away kit in the league, and maybe it grants a lot of luck as well. And I think what was the difference is that Hull got a quick 2-goal lead. You know, within a period of 3 minutes, they were 2-0 up, with Sam Andanesh managing to get the first goal. I mean, a dreadful mistake by Mark McGuinness. I don't know why. Well, for one, why is he passing at the back? And 2, the pass, you know, to Phillips is just not powerful enough. So Sandra Minesh manages to get ahead of him to make it 1-0. And then Louis Cole makes it 2-0 once again. Dharme doesn't really clear the ball very, very well, and defensively just giving Coyle too much space to make it 2-0. And by that time, I feel like Hull could have definitely killed the game off. King Lewis Potter had a really, really good chance in the second half, especially that could have ended it. But I think especially in the last 20 or so minutes, it looked like Hull were trying to hold on. Aidan Flint managed to get 1 goal back, which I think did give Hull a couple of nerves. But they held on fantastically and they got the win. And I got to say, I think they're definitely looking for next season, Hull City. I think definitely they've got some potential. As with Cardiff, they've got to be really careful with this. They've been falling behind a lot of these games. And I've praised them that they've been able to get comebacks. You know, they did it before against Reading very, very recently. But they can't keep relying on falling behind to try and gain a response. Because, as you would see in this game here, a couple of mistakes and then the game's taken away from you and you need to produce miracles. So Cardiff will need to manage that side of the game a bit better for next year. And then a damning defeat for Blackburn's top 6 troubles as they lose 2-1 to Peterborough United. And I think they were in the end of a couple of really bad and controversial refereeing decisions as well. I mean, controversy in the refereeing and officiating was probably the theme of this weekend. There could have been the question of, was there a foul in the build-up to Sammy Smoldick's equaliser? There was maybe a question for why Ben Brereton's first goal was disallowed. There was probably a question on the red card decision given against them as well. So they were definitely in the wrong side of a lot of the decisions, I would say. Ben Brereton Diaz eventually got the goal in the 77th minute. I mean, the first goal that disallowed was ridiculous. Apparently, he caused a foul when he managed to win the header. Nah, He just simply wanted the header more. So I have no idea why that was disallowed. I thought originally it was offside, but he couldn't have been offside. So that is a very poor decision for me. And then the Eden red card, I mean, it's 2 yellow cards, and he's just gone back from injury as well. I'm not giving him any excuses, though. You know, he definitely could have done a little bit better, especially with the second yellow. But it was a little bit touch and go whether I would have given it as a red card personally. And then, what I will say about Peterborough, they have really improved. And that is why I was a little bit nervy giving something for Blackburn there, because I do know Peterborough can actually fight and compete in games now. As you can see, 15 shots that Peterborough had to Blackburn's 13. They are going toe-to-toe with those teams now, and that is one thing I'm really encouraged with Peterborough. Sammy Smodics, who I love, you know, formerly being a Colchester player, he managed to get the equaliser for Peterborough, making it 1-1. A nice flowing move and a great pass by Burrows to find him. And then Jack Marriott, within only a couple of minutes later, scoring a brilliant top corner goal to make it 2-1 to Peterborough. It definitely keeps their championship hopes alive, but I still think it delays the inevitable, to be honest. They will need a lot of results to go their way. They've got a crucial game, however, against Barnsley, where they can relegate them and they can potentially push themselves a little bit closer to safety. But they'll be keeping their eye on Reading. Reading can very easily relegate all 3 of the bottom 3 within a couple of game weeks. As with Blackburn, they're just not creating enough anymore, and that is the biggest problem. With only 2 shots on target, that's not good enough. Peterborough had 10. They definitely looked a lot better creating chances and asking questions. I think going forward, Blackburn have just not been at the same rate as we're used to. So I think that side of it is what's ultimately going to leave them out of the top 6, sadly. What a game we had at Deepdale, actually. It ended Preston 1, Millwall 1, and both teams were up for this. It was actually pretty end-to-end stuff there. And the first goal went to Preston's way. It was from a Murray Wallace own goal. I've got to say, actually really good play in the left-hand side. Daniel Johnson had a brilliant game for Preston in this game. I think it was him and Cunningham that actually did really, really well in the left-hand side. The cross came in trying to find Potts, but then Murray Wallace turns the ball into his own net, making it 1-0 to Preston. But Murray Wallace redeems himself, finding the right net to score in this time. And it was a really, really nice header. Both of the Wallaces is combining, with Jed Wallace with the assist and Murray Wallace with the header. Defending wise, I think Cunningham and especially Brad Potts, I felt definitely could have closed down Murray Wallace a little bit more. If he had a little bit extra energy, maybe he could have got ahead of Wallace there. But he basically had almost a free header. Ran for it, got the power, and it went past Iverson to make it 1-1. The second half, there were plenty of big clear-cut chances, especially for Millwall. They had 3 chances back-to-back, and Daniel Iverson saved all 3 of them. He made a triple save, which was absolutely incredible. Just to pull off those reflexes, I think one was from Afobe, one was from Bradshaw. There was a lot of chances, and then later on, Kieftenbeld actually had a shot which just cannoned, you know, the crossbar as well. So in that moment there, how Millwall didn't score 1 goal, I was very, very surprised. And Preston even had a chance as well. Sean Maguire, who I thought was put through potentially by Johnson, he was really put through almost 1-on-1, but Bielkowski does well to save his initial shots. So both chances had really, really good chances, and both will think how they did not win. But I think with Millwall especially, I think that them going forward, they've got something to play with. You know, they're 10th place at the moment, and they're only 3 points off the top 6. So they've definitely still got some purpose to play within the season. And I definitely think with the squad they have and the running, they do have a chance. They just got to stay consistent and not to keep drawing these games. With Preston, you know, I think they're still going to be in around the mid-table position. It'll just be interesting to see how they respond to the final couple of games of the season, because I don't really think they've got too much to play for now. What a result we saw at Bramall Lane. I mean, this Sheffield United side were a team looking unstoppable at home. Then Reading come along, where Reading have turned into a team possessed in the last couple of games. I've got to say, well done to Reading, because I've said this right from, you know, almost when Paul Ince was actually appointed. They have had fight. They've gone toe-to-toe for so many teams. Now, if you see the stats, definitely not a lot of possession, not a lot of shots, but more shots on target. And I tell you, one thing that they did really, really well is playing on the counter-attack. But Josh Lauren, boy, can he produce a through ball. The first goal came from Josh Lauren, from a perfectly weighted through ball by Josh Laurent. And then Lucas Jow manages to get past Following to make it 1-0. Then I think Sheffield United started to rally forward just a little bit. But even with that, they really struggled to test Lyland in goal. Eventually in the 90th minute, where actually if that goal really could have been avoided, the defending for Reading was not quite great there. They didn't clear the set piece very, very well. Ilman Ndiaye managed to get the goal pretty much unmarked, making it 1-1, and I thought that would have been a real sucker punch for Reading's survival chances had it stayed as a draw. But in the 92nd minute, 2 minutes later, Tom McIntyre produces a moment of magic. Set piece goes in, and honestly, Sheffield United don't clear it well. McIntyre finds himself in space and bang, goal. And the limbs in our away end looked absolutely brilliant as well. That ended 2-1, and I got to say, now that Reading are on 40 points, I honestly think they may have already have done enough, to be honest. You know, because the bottom three by themselves are going to be almost faultless to even go to where Reading are right now. So I wouldn't say Reading can be complacent yet. They've got a crucial game against Swansea at home in midweek, which definitely could end all, you know, worries of relegation. But I gotta say, well done to Paul Ince. He's really trying to put a good audition for himself to try and be the permanent manager in the future. For Sheffield United, I'm just really puzzled with this. I mean, obviously they've got quite a lot of strikers injured. I think the big one being Billy Sharp. I think without him, they really lack a vocal point. So we'll see if Sheffield United survive, but it's looking very, very desperate now to try and keep into those top 6 places, you know, especially with all those list of teams that I've just said, and they've lost that advantage now that Middlesbrough got a game in hand over them. It's looking really, really nervy now for Sheffield United fans. The game between Stoke and Bristol City ended as a 1-0 away win to Bristol City. Now, this was one of the first few games that we saw really two teams with nothing to play for, really. And it did have that end of the season vibe, especially defensively. I think both teams at times weren't necessarily very, very good defensively, and even going forward, they weren't really that great either. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the most boring game to watch, but it definitely could have been better. One of the most entertaining bits was definitely the scuffle actually happening between Daniel Bentley and Jacob Brown there. That was a little bit humorous for me to see. Only in the Championship you would see stuff like this. But in the end of it, I mean, I think a draw would have been the fairest result. What I did see is that Bristol City did have a bit of fight about them, especially in the second half. If anything, it could have been the crowd definitely really cheering them on, because the crowd have really been gaining on Bristol City's back quite recently, but quite rightly so. They've really not been putting in the performances. And I got to say, Jay De Silva with a fantastic goal in the 84th minute, making it 1-0 Bristol City. Did he mean it? I'm going to say he meant it. I think it was a really, really nice goal by Jay De Silva there. And I think it was just a typical Bristol City win. They sometimes pop up with these results. So, great win for Bristol City overall. As with Stoke, you know, once again, just both these teams are very similar in the way that they're very inconsistent, but both have great amount of firepower on their day. Both will need to work on that area for next season. Game between Swansea and Barnsley ended as a 1-1 draw between the two teams. Now, Barnsley weren't necessarily very bad in that game. In fact, if anything, I think they did deserve probably a little bit more for Swansea to get anything out of this game. And if you look at the chances, 19 shots Barnsley had to the 17 shots that Swansea managed to have as well. One difference though was the quality of the chances. Swansea did have way more shots on target. Barnsley did take the lead from Claudio Gomez, and I got to say, it was really, really nice build-up for the goal. Keena and Bassi worked the ball very, very well to find Gomez in the position to make it 1-0. For the equalising goal for Swansea, I think it's just lack of experience. I remember the build up to the goal. There was a Barnsley defender literally just standing there allowing the ball to be played to a Swansea player. If I was in that position and I saw the ball wasn't necessarily travelling to the player straight away and I was fighting for survival, I would run 50-50 to try and get to the ball. But the players, maybe preserving energy, just didn't run to, because, you know, you give the ball to a player in a very dangerous position. You don't want to close down too heavy before you concede a penalty, let's say. And Oliver Nitschum just wasn't closed down effectively enough and scored a really nice goal, don't get me wrong, that made it 1-1. It's not really a game that really helps Barnsley's chances, to be honest. They're now rock bottom following that Peterborough and Derby both won their games this weekend. So it's definitely not impossible yet. They're definitely going to be fighting towards the end, but unfortunately I just think the lack of experience is really costing them. For Swansea, you know, they've been much better recently. This is one of their poorest games in their recent unbeaten run of form, so I think it was just a bit of an off day for Swansea. West Brom managed to nick a late winner against Blackpool, making it 2-1. Carlin Grant in the 93rd minute. I mean, definitely he'll be the hero for giving West Brom all 3 points. I gotta say, it was quite a competitive game actually, but both teams defensively, like I already mentioned it before with Birmingham and Coventry, both teams defensively don't look really, really organised, and I think both definitely need to be working in that area for next season at least. Andy Carroll managed to score, although the defending, he managed to run free to receive the cross to make it 1-0 to West Brom in that. Ekipta manages to get an equaliser for Blackpool. It was a really nice goal actually. It came from a set piece. West Brom don't clear it properly. Ekipta completely unmarked and shoots the ball past David Budden to make it 1-1 to Blackpool. And it ended up to be West Brom. It was the 93rd minute and it was clear that Blackpool just didn't really clear it well enough. They just had a corner. I think it was a set piece actually. It was a corner that came in. They just didn't clear it well enough. And Colin Graham, right place, right time, being a very clinical striker, managed to score to make it 2-1 West Brom. It still wasn't a really great performance for West Brom. I think it's only their 4th win under Steve Bruce, you know, since being announced as their new manager, taking over Ishmael, of course. So there's a lot of things to be worked on. I definitely think there was a sense of frustration in the crowd as well. So definitely West Brom have got to use this transfer window to try and win the fans over again. As for Blackpool, slipping a little bit, but once again, they don't really have much to play for. They're probably already on the beach. Ironically, that's where they are. Then what a game we had at the John Smith Stadium. Huddersfield 2, QPR 2. And this surprised me a little bit because this QPR squad have been absolutely battered mentally for quite a number of weeks or so. With their winless run that they're currently on, they had a string of 5 consecutive defeats. And I gotta say, this draw was so unlike Queen's Park Rangers, what we saw from them recently. They fought and they really wanted something from this game. And to go back and equalise after falling behind twice, you've got to admire that mentality from QPR. Huddersfield took the lead first. It was a Yohan Barbe own goal. It came from a corner and unfortunately Barbe just really couldn't clear the powerful header. Then an equalising goal by Luke Amos. It was a really nice move from QPR on the left-hand side. Luke Amos running free right in the middle to make it 1-1. And then in the second half, Harry Toffolo scores a brilliant, powerful goal. And it was the two fullbacks combining with Turton with the cross and Toffolo with the touch to get to the goal to make it 2-1. I got to say, those fullbacks have been pivotal to Huddersfield's success this season. But within minutes later, Ilyas Cher have other ideas. He scored a really nice goal by himself as well. Maybe you could question Tom Lee's defending. He doesn't really get in quick enough to block the shot from Cher. I think by that time, Huddersfield were probably a bit fatigued at that time. And, you know, I don't really blame them. Most of these teams are going to be very fatigued. This is definitely going to be one of the most tiring parts of the season when you're playing 3 game weeks within a week. You know, it's very exhausting to continuously do that over and over again. Good point for QPR, but it's just a shame that, you know, it's come at this stage of the season and it's ended up like this. It goes to show QPR on their day are a very special team when things go right. With Huddersfield, a draw is actually not the end of the world for them, but the fact that, you know, Forest lost, Sheffield United lost, they could see as a point gained a little bit, ironically. So I think it was actually not too bad, this result for Huddersfield. And the final game between Derby and Fulham ended 2-1 Derby. I mean, Derby just refuse to die. They really do. They refuse to be sat down and they really do go for it. Now, especially at their home games, their away games leaves a lot to be questioned. But at home, Derby are as dangerous as any team. And I gotta say, they were cutting Fulham wide open when they were able to. Fabio Carvalho got the first goal and Fulham came to this game, you know, knowing the win could get them automatically promoted. And definitely in the first half, it looked like they definitely had that ambition at the moment. But then in the second half, they just looked so nervy. They almost, I felt, undermined Derby's determination. And Derby are, you know, two different ambitions indeed. Fulham trying to get to the Premier League, but Derby fighting for their lives. They are not going to go down without a fight. I don't think they will stay up, unfortunately, for them, but I do think they're definitely going to fight right to the end before it's mathematically impossible for them to survive. Luke Plange was causing all sorts of problems. He got the first equalising goal for Derby, making it 1-1. And within 20 minutes later, Luke Plange was also involved in Derby's second goal. It does come down to Tosin Adebayo own goal, but he was definitely blocking Luke Plange having an easy tap in there. So he was definitely one of the difference makers in this game. And I gotta say, even without Colin Kazim-Richards and some of their first team players, Derby squad, you know, full of their youngsters as it is, they've got so much talent. It would be a real shame to see this team go down, really. But if they carry on like this, and some of them do stay on, I know Luke Plange is going to be going to Crystal Palace next year, but they definitely have the potential. I definitely think if Rooney stays on and things look better with Kirchner coming in, I definitely think Derby can move forward and there'll be a little bit more optimism for next season, that's for certain. As with Fulham, as we can see, you know, they're not perfect yet, and I do think defensively they need to work on something. I definitely think if you see a team not taking their chances, you know, Fulham are going to be a team that are going to be struggling in the Premier League. Mitrovic did have a goal that was disallowed for offside, but really apart from that, no decisions really went against Fulham's way. So they've got to be very careful, Fulham, especially if they do intend to build a long-term project as a Premier League club. That is my review for match day 42. That rhymes. So let's look at the Championship table. So Fulham still first on 83 points. Literally a win for Fulham will take them up to the Premier League. Bournemouth in second place still. Huddersfield, Luton, Forest and Sheffield United still in the top 6. But the gap in the top 6, you know, is close. You see Middlesbrough, Blackburn and Coventry and Millwall. I see those 4 teams still having potential getting into the top 6. And for the bottom 4, Reading now on 40 points. I got to say, huge congratulations to Reading and Paul Linz at the moment. They're 9 points clear of Derby and Peterborough with only 4 games left. Reading are nearly there. And Barnsley only 1 point behind the other 2 on 30. So that is me talking about matchday 42. We're now going to go about matchday 43 and predict those games. Let's go. So we start off with Middlesbrough going up against Huddersfield. I think this one's going to be a really tight game. I definitely see Middlesbrough being the home team, maybe getting the difference, but their last 2 home games, Middlesbrough have not really done too well. And defensively, I still think, you know, they're going to feel the absence of not having Del Fry. Huddersfield on their day can definitely turn up, although they have struggled recently playing against teams in around the top 6, maybe excluding Luton, but I'm thinking more or less to Bournemouth when they really struggled there. So it depends what version of Huddersfield we get. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I don't think there'll be much to separate. And I think I'm going to think the same between Barnsley and Peterborough. I really want to be brave and maybe edge one of Barnsley or Peterborough. But I'm going to go 1-1 draw. I really can't see anything that separates them. It will be unhelpful for both teams, actually. For Blackburn, Stoke, this is really interesting. Now, Blackburn, if they want to get in the top 6, they really got to win this game. Stoke can turn up on their day, though. Away from home, they actually pulled in a great performance recently against West Brom. And I think they may beat Blackburn again. I think Blackburn are in free fall, I've got to be honest. I'm going to say a 2-1 away victory to Stoke City. As with Blackpool and Birmingham, 2 teams with not much to play for, it could be a load of goals or it could be very little goals. You know, there's no in between where we see 2 teams with not much to play for now. I'm going to edge the home side to get back to winning ways. I'm going to say 2-1 to Blackpool. Now Cardiff, Luton. Luton is a really crucial game for them, definitely. Cardiff will be tough. You know, Cardiff at home have done pretty well quite recently. They've got a little bit of consistency. Luton on their day can definitely turn up. Something tells me Luton may get something here. I'm going to say a 1-0 away victory. I think it'll be a very tight game with not many goals to talk about. Coventry, Bournemouth. This is a crucial game. I can see one team winning by 2-1, but which one? Coventry can definitely win this one. In fact, if I wouldn't even be surprised if Bournemouth score first and then Coventry equalise very late on. But I'm actually going to edge Bournemouth. It's going to be a very unpopular view with my Coventry City viewers. But I don't know. Sometimes Bournemouth, when they had those crunch games, they really do turn up. I think about that Huddersfield game where it was a must-win for Bournemouth. And they have turned up in those moments. And I think Scott Parker would definitely get them prepared for that. So I'll say 2-1 Bournemouth. Millwall, I'm going to edge Millwall by 2-0 because they've got the added things to play for. A whole lot mathematically safe now, so I think they could still be on the beach. QPR Derby, this is going to be a must-win game for Derby especially, but their away form with 8 defeats in a row, I really do not see Derby gain anything. Despite this Queen's Park Rangers side being winless in 7 matches, I think QPR will get something here. I think there's some great improvement against Huddersfield, and I think they'll carry that confidence into this game. I'm going to say 3-1 QPR. Reading Swansea. This is a tough one to predict actually, because Swansea away from home have been doing rather well. They've been unbeaten for quite some time. Reading, however, just seem to turn up. You know, Reading have only lost once in the last 6. They managed to sneak in 4 wins in those games as well. So Reading can easily win this. But I have a feeling Swansea are going to make it very difficult for Reading. So I'm actually going to say a draw. I'm going to say a 2-2 draw. For some reason, I see a load of goals in this game. Bristol City, Sheffield United. Now, if Sheffield United play like how they did against Reading, I worry for them, because Bristol City, despite not winning in their last 3 home games, they really do have something about them on their day with their attacking players, and it actually wouldn't surprise me to see Bristol City win one game well and then lose another game. It's just typical inconsistent Bristol City, but I'm actually going to do with the unthinkable and predict them to have 2 wins in a row. I'm going to say 2-1 Bristol City. That's going to be my one shock for this midweek. Nottingham Forest, West Brom. I think Forest got to respond, and I think Forest will respond. I think they definitely know they need to win this game to try and stay in the conversation of even getting automatically promoted alongside with being in the top 6. I'm going to say 2-0 Forest. Finally, Fulham, Preston. So Fulham win this, they go up. But Preston are a difficult team to play up against. You know, as we saw in the recent games, you know, they're proving to be a really difficult side for many teams now. And I have that feeling Preston will cancel each other out. You know, Preston did pretty well against Fulham the last time they played against them. So I'm going to say a 1-1 draw between the 2 teams. So guys, that wraps it up for my video today. If you guys enjoyed it, please give the video a like. It just tremendously helps the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button. It does really help the channel. And please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But I'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw any of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. And have a happy Easter. Take care, everyone.